Hi, this is Zach here with the Bulletin Board Heroes here at Zach's Traders Cafe for Tuesday, the 8th of April. Starting off with the FTSE 100, where the first guess, actually, that 77.30 would be the low on the move, was not that far out, at least on a closing basis. Obviously, we went down to 75.44, which is that green, the floor of that green triangle. The other point to note, which is the most important point, is that the RSI went down to around the 14 level on this occasion. With this decline, and that compares to the 12 or 13 level that we had back in the time of the pandemic, or the scamdemic, I suppose. That there, the RSI went down to the 12 to 13 level, and took a week to recover from that before turning back up again. We might see the same thing now, but what is interesting is that we were almost obliged to have a rally from yesterday's low on the basis that the RSI went that low. In fact, it was nearly as low as when we could have all died of COVID, which obviously we didn't. Current situation is that while there's an end-of-day close, while there's no end-of-day close back below 77.30, that July support line projection, we are looking at a potential rebound towards the 8,000 area. Worst case, I suppose, is that we only get up to the August low there, 79.20, but looking for 8,000, even if we then fall back again and have to test the lows. Moving on to the DAX, which I think was this time yesterday in better shape than the FTSE. We had the overshoot below the 200-day moving average and taking us back down to where we were in September, but now we're clinging to the 200-day moving average area, 19,900, which I think we were looking for as a potential rebound zone. Yesterday, end of day close above that 200-day line, which is not a done deal at the moment, and we could be looking at a move back up towards resistance on the way up, let's say 20,500, but I think that's probably as optimistic as we can get. Now on to the villain of the piece, which is the Dow, and here blew out all the basically support targets, even the April one there at 37,600, which is what one was guessing yesterday before the event. Current situation is that we've had a rebound basically back towards the spring 2024 zone, and looking for at least an end-of-day close back above August support there, 38,500, to perhaps give us a move back to the 40,000 area, which was support back in September, but obviously very fluid at the moment. What can be said, as in the case of the FTSE, is that we've gone to very extreme oversold areas, so a technical rebound is due and is underway. Moving along to Bitcoin, where the rug was pulled below the floor of that rising trend channel, but not by too much. In fact, we were guessing 73 to 74,000 as a possible support area, and we bounced quite well from that. The key now is whether this market can get back in that rising trend channel from March last year at 82,000 and then head back on its merry way. Resistance currently in terms of the upside, 86,000 area, which is the area of the 50 and 200-day moving averages. And it is interesting that this market, having already fallen so far, didn't really have that much momentum on the downside, apart from taking out March support and then rebounding after that. Moving on to gold, and here the picture is obviously very much guided by the risk-on, risk-off situation. We've gone back to where, well, I suppose the expected retracement area, which is 29.60, the old February resistance, and just above the 50-day line there at 29.43. That remains the favoured area for support to come in, and I suppose we've got to widen that channel there to the 50-day line, and then hope that this market then heads back up towards 3,200, perhaps by the end of this month. But ideally, there's no sustained price action back below the 50-day line or February resistance. RSI below neutral 50, so that does suggest there could be a little bit more on the downside, maybe towards 2,900 as a worst case scenario. Moving on to the stocks, and starting off with Blencowe, which keeps on pumping out the good news, and in this case it has actually worked in terms of bouncing the share price. We had a bear trap rebound, a bear trap gap reversal from below the November support there at 3.3 pence. Above that, we're looking for the 4.6 pence area which is the top of that broadening triangle. Got a bit of bullish divergence there as well, as we have with many stocks after the shock move in the market both yesterday and Friday. Moving along to a stock which has had a double hit as well in terms of the downside. Looked as though March would see the low here, but for Beeks, but further low for April, not surprisingly in the current environment, but bullish divergence there, and an end of day close back above March support there at 195 could at least give us a move back to £2.30 or so, which was late March resistance. We're in a falling trend channel there, top of the channel there at £2.50, which obviously would be the best case by the end of next month. Moving along to a company which had a decent announcement today. I'm not sure how many people understand it or what it does, but anyway, well received. And unfilled gap off the upside for Cykel. Looking for the shares to hit as high as 4 pence with Lucy, whatever they call it there. That's the top of that falling trend channel from December. And we're looking with that at least while we're above the recent low there at 2.3 pence. So above 2.3, looking for 4 on Cykel. On to Georgina, which is something of a favourite, given the way that the shares are rebounding despite all the short conspiracy psycho crackpot comments on the company that we've had over recent months, or in fact since the company listed. But we've got the shares heading towards a long promised target there at 10 pence. I think that was supposed to be by the end of this month. Can't quite remember. Could have been the end of last month, but we're near to 10 pence anyway, and above 10 pence, looking for 14 pence by the end of this month. We need to crack that 200-day moving average at 10.25 pence for the first time since the company's been listed, and that would put us officially into a bull trend rather than a bear market rally. Ideally, we stay above the trend line break there from August around 7.3 pence. Moving on to Novacyt, and here memories of the pandemic, but also a situation where we've had a gap close there, bear trap gap close, a bullish divergence there as well, so above 39 pence, looking for the 50-day moving average at 47 initially, and hopefully by the end of this month, at least up to 55, as we've seen before. When this stock moves, it tends to move quite significantly, as it did beginning of January and even in December. Moving along to Oracle Power, where there's which shows what happens when you haven't had a fundraise for a while. Here we've got the rising 50-day moving average off the low with an RSI 50 rebound. So fundraisers permitting or not permitting, then we've got 0.04p as a target. Obviously, we had that big rally back in November, December, and perhaps we'll see the same again. Best case here, if you're a fan of the shares and looking for greater glory, would be the upper parallel of that triangle there, heading for close on 0.06 pence, but maybe that's a 2-month job, and maybe there'll have to be either no or very well received fundraisers in the meantime. On to Thor Exploration, which is all grown up now with its maiden dividend, and obviously still enjoying and lapping up the gold price. Here you can see that we've showed this chart many times, but we've got this wide rising trend channel. It's going up, heading up to 32 pence or 33 pence, hopefully by the end of next month or even sooner, while we're above the 50-day moving average at 22 pence. Finishing up with Upland, where I think I've said previously, any dips below a penny tend to be buying opportunities. We've had that quite a few times since last summer, and the current situation is that the shares have pushed back above the 1 penny level, which was basically the low back in January, or the initial 2025 low, above a penny, looking for the 200-day line there, 1.36, hopefully by the end of this month. Rather weird, the shares rallied in February with no real news. Maybe they can do the same again with some news. That's it from me today. More updates tomorrow.